The things we do to save our own lives are sometimes beyond our own comprehension. If you had to choose between your own life and the life of your loved one, what would you pick? There is no right or wrong answer. We can't know what we would do in that situation until we find ourselves in it. The options are terrifying either way. One Reddit user decided to share their crazy story of having to choose between their life and the life of a loved one. This is horror. I saw my own funeral, and I was smiling. I am not religious, but my mother is a born-again Christian. She often tells me that if I died, I would go to hell. This is because I have done many bad things in my life, such as getting drunk and high, having sex, and taking drugs. But I've never killed anyone, and I don't want any kids. So I'm probably not going to go to hell. My mom had a stroke about 3 years ago. Since then, she has had trouble speaking and gets very tired easily. Every day after she wakes up, she goes back to bed and sleeps all day. My father takes care of her, and I only see them both every few months. Last month, I went to visit my parents. When I got there, my dad told me that Mom's condition had gotten worse. She couldn't speak as well and spent most of her days sleeping. He also said that she hadn't eaten much for a week. So he begged me to stay with her and make sure she ate something every day. I felt sorry for him, so I stayed. When my mom woke up, she didn't recognize me at first. She thought I was a nurse from the hospice that comes by once a week. Then she started asking me why I was there. Told her I was her son, but she just stared at me blankly and rolled away from me. Could tell that even though she recognized me, she still wasn't sure who I was. Every time I went into her room, she would ask me why I was there and how long I was staying. I did my best to convince her that I was her son and that I was ungoing anywhere. It was very sad to see her like this. About 2 days after I arrived, my mom stopped speaking altogether. It was a slow decline. 1 minute she would be able to say a few words, and the next minute she would just be making weird noises. On the 3rd day, I tried feeding my mom some soup. She spit it out immediately. Then she tried drinking some water and choked on it. It was awful. I wanted to keep trying to feed her, but my dad told me to stop because she wasn't eating anyway. He also said she wouldn't drink water anymore either. At this point, I was feeling very sad and angry. Angry at my mom for not recognizing me, and angry at my dad for making me feel useless. That night, I went out drinking with some friends. When I got home, I went straight to my mom's room. She wasn't awake, but I still asked her if she remembered who I was. Of course, she didn't say anything. I felt really upset and started yelling at her. I called her a bitch and told her she didn't deserve me as a son. Then I left the room. The next morning, my dad asked me why I was yelling at Mom. I told him I was frustrated because she wouldn't even look at me. He told me I shouldn't treat her that way. Then he left for work. A few hours later, I went into my mom's room and found her dead in bed. I screamed for my dad, but he wasn't home yet, so I called 911 myself. The operator asked me what happened, and I told her my mom had passed away. She told me to check for a pulse and to start chest compressions if there wasn't one. I checked her for a pulse and started doing mouth-to-nose resuscitation. At this point, I didn't care if I got arrested for yelling at my mom the day before. All I cared about was saving her life. After about 30 minutes, my mom was taken to the hospital, but she was already dead. That day, I said goodbye to my mom at the hospital. Her face was pale and lifeless. They had a sheet over her body, but I pulled it down to make sure it really was her. When I saw her, I smiled. I knew I had killed her. Later that day, I went to the police station and confessed everything to them. They told me they were going to arrest me because my mom was already dead when I called 911, and I was only trying to save her life. They also told me that legally I was cleared of any wrongdoing, but I still felt guilty. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the events of the last few days over and over in my head. I kept thinking about how I yelled at my mom and called her names. I hadn't meant to hurt her, but I guess I had pushed too hard when performing mouth-to-nose resuscitation. As the sun rose, I went to the bathroom to wash my face. As I looked into the mirror, I saw a monster staring back at me. My eyes were red and swollen from crying, and my hair was a mess. I splashed water on my face and tried to calm down. That's when I heard a knock on the door. I opened it to see a police officer standing there. He told me they had finished their investigation and they weren't going to press any charges against me. He also said they had spoken to my dad and he wasn't pressing any charges either. Then something strange happened. The officer handed me a brown envelope. He told me it was my mom's personal belongings. The items inside were from the hospital and they had been collected by my dad. But there was one thing in the envelope that didn't belong there. It was a small piece of paper. I opened the envelope and took out the paper. On it was a message written in my mom's handwriting. It said, "If anything ever happens to me, please don't feel bad. I love you." I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I didn't want to cry, but I couldn't help myself. The officer told me he would leave me alone now, and I thanked him for his service. As soon as he left, I went back to my mom's room. I talked to her for a long time. I told her how much I loved her and apologized for calling her names the day before. That's when I heard a voice. I turned around to see who was there, but there was no one in the room. I thought maybe I was just imagining things. So I went back to talking with my mom. Then I heard the voice again. It said, "It's okay, you didn't kill her." I did. I turned around to see who was there, but no one was in the room. I started to get scared. What was happening? Who was there? Then I saw a figure standing in the corner of the room. It was tall and thin, and it seemed to be made of darkness. As it stepped forward, I could see its face. It was pale and expressionless. Then it started to speak. It said, "I am here for your mother's soul. She is mine now." Then it reached out and grabbed me. I screamed, but no sound came out. I tried to fight back, but it was too strong. It dragged me closer and closer until I could feel its cold breath on my neck. It whispered in my ear, "You will join us soon." Then everything went black. That's all for this episode. Please stay tuned for more. If you enjoyed this story, I highly recommend checking out another short, where a boy was adopted by his biological grandfather.